All right, this video is going to be on linear pattern tool. This tool is pretty much like the copy and paste tool within Solidworks. So what it can do is it can take a feature and it can make copies of it going in a straight line. So I've got a cheese grater here and we've got one circle cut out and we want a lot more of those. So without the linear pattern tool, you would have to draw out every single one of these circles and it would take you a very, very long time. But with the linear pattern tool, we're going to make that a whole lot quicker. So linear pattern tool located up here in the features tab right beside fillet. I'm going to select that. Now with the linear pattern tool, pretty much everything is going to be on the left side of the screen. That's where this whole tool operates from. So we have direction 1, direction 2, and then features and faces. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to go down here to features and faces, and I'm going to click this box, and then I'm going to select the feature that I want to make copies of, and that is going to be this cut extrude 2. So I'm going to click on this, and you see down here in this box it now says cut extrude 2. So we've determined what we want to make copies of. Now what we got to do is determine the direction of our copies. Now the way directions work is you have to click on an edge on your part. So the way it is the copy will run parallel to whatever edge you select. So if I select this horizontal edge, that means my copies are going to move left to right. If I click this vertical edge, it means the copies are going to move up and down. So I'm going to start with a horizontal pattern. So up here underneath direction 2, I want to make sure that this box here is blue. So I'm going to click on this box and then I'm going to select this horizontal edge right up here. And you can see right away it added a whole bunch of copies. Now we do have some parameters here. Over here on the left side, there's two things to look at. The first one is your spacing, and if I increase this number, you see those circles are going to kind of spread out a little bit. So I'm going to adjust that spacing, and then right below it is number of instances, which is how many copies you want. So you see we can increase or decrease this number. Now, if you were just doing a single direction pattern, you know, if you were just doing like a left to right or an up and down pattern, you know, you could just green check right now and you could see it makes all those copies. So that's just a single direction pattern. I also want to show you how to do two directions. So when you're doing this, if you want to do a second direction, because we want these circles to go down also, what I could do is I could go to direction 2, I could click on this little box and turn it blue, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a vertical edge. So I'm going to click this vertical edge and I'm going to increase the number of copies, and you see I'm going to get a whole bunch more of these circles start showing up. And just like before, I can change my spacing right over here, so I can spread those out a little bit, and then I can keep increasing that number, and that should be good right about there. Now there is one little thing that might happen to you whenever you try this. Sometimes the copies don't go in the direction that you want them to do. So you may want the copies to go like left to right, but instead they go right to left. So sometimes you might see something that looks like that. So the copies are, you know, they're still running parallel to the edges that you selected, but instead of going left to right, maybe they're going right to left, or instead of up to down, they're going down to up. So there's a few different ways to change this. Like for example, right up here underneath direction 1, there's a little icon that says reverse direction, and if you click on this, it's going to flip the direction to either side. You could do the same thing down here for direction 2. You could flip it to either side. And there are these little arrows They're kind of tough to see, but there are these little arrows that you can select. I don't like to use these little arrows because, you know, sometimes you try to click on this little arrow on the part and you might accidentally click and select something on your part that you don't want to select. So I just think it's a lot safer to use the icons over on the left side of the screen if you need to change directions at all. And then you can just green check. You see we got all these circles. Now, the big reason why we like to use linear pattern as opposed to just drawing all these circles out, obviously it's a lot faster, we know that. But the thing you got to understand about linear pattern is it all relates to the original feature. So if I were to like 3D print this, and I found out that these circles, let's say the circles were too big, and I had to make the circles smaller. So if I drew these individually, I would have to go back and change the size of every single circle. But we don't have to do that. What we can do is we can just go to the original copy. So we can go to our original extruded cut, and you'll see if let's say I make this a little bit smaller, what you're going to see is all the other circles are going to copy the change that I just made. So you see all the other circles got smaller. And then I could even go back, I could edit feature, I could maybe change my spacing up a little bit. Same thing down here for my second direction. And you can see in a few seconds we were able to drastically change what our part looks like. So that's like the really big benefit of linear pattern. Yes, it makes things a lot faster, but it's also a whole lot better when you need to go back and make changes. So that is linear pattern.